I'm at the Rockford Public Library. They haven't done an inquiry on the stolen computer, or the detectives found the stolen computer and returned it to the library, or have it in their evidence room. And my grandfather filed a false insurance claim on it. Um, and after me telling him that it was taken by the third party that lived at the house. I'm getting ready to go to the Rockford Rescue Mission. They're letting me back in after 2 days of sleeping outside. They have my clothes there. That when I and um, They told me that I have to sit in a room, a quarantine room, for over the weekend. This room is about the same size as the room I'm in right now. It's like about 15 feet by like 15 feet. Um, there are no windows. There is no TV. There is no internet. I don't have access to the internet. And I have to sit there tonight, Friday night, all day Saturday night, all day Sunday and Sunday night, and then on Monday I get to see the nurse. The reason for me needing to be quarantined is not because I have any symptoms and I have been vaccinated. It's because the nurse needs to do a check on me, a check my ABCs, I guess. What she does is she puts a blood pressure cuff on me and takes my temperature, and that is it. Any symptoms, if I'm symptomatic, the nurse will tell me to leave and go get checked out. And so I have to. The reason for me having to go back into quarantine is so I guess I'll stop right there. Um, After you finish quarantining, you're able to leave the building and go and be active for a couple hours a day. So logically the amount of interactions equal an increase to the likelihood or possibility of exposure. And those individuals who are out right now are coming back in, and so nothing. So that's important. But I have to sit in this quarantine room, um, and if you put the individuals, if you put the groups of individuals, the ones who are in quarantine versus the other individuals who are not in quarantine on the same graph, there's no difference in the amount of interactions that have, or the likelihood of possible transmission. There's no difference. Um, and so it's basically I have to sit in a dark room. I have to sit in a dark room, and that's very important. I have to sit in a dark room because I went to the doctor, and I told him I needed emergency surgery, and I got ibuprofen, and then I was stranded, so I had to donate blood so I could get paid. I got paid for it, and so I could plasma, so I could go in, so I could afford transportation back to the homeless shelter. And because I was late, they told me to sleep outside, and because I was, and if I want to return, I have to sit in this dark room, this small, isolated dark room for the entire weekend, as the rules. I was a victim of domestic violence, and I just left the courthouses, both the circuit and federal courthouses, and I had to pick up paperwork, and I had to subpoena. I only was able to subpoena one person today, but I need an emergency extraction on my tooth. I will not have access to a telephone all weekend to schedule an appointment for my tooth. The phone I'm using right now doesn't have service on it. Um, and so I just want to be clear that the Rockford Rescue Mission is forcing a victim of domestic violence to sit in a small dark room with no windows or no television or anything, with no forms of contact or communication to the outside, for several days, for several days for several days, um, in order to stay at that location. and and my reasoning for having to go through this again is because the nurse isn't available on the weekend. However, I contacted the nurse previously, and I asked if she would be available after hours or if she'd be available on like the weekends, and she did tell me, she did inform me personally that she would be available if she was called, and but the staff there will not call her. They will not reach out to her. It is very divided with the staff, um, from the from the management on down. It's just very divided. So once again, I'll say it again. After being a victim of domestic violence, I sought refuge at the Rockford Rescue Mission, and I had to go to the doctor after being assaulted, and I was stranded, so I had to donate my plasma to get money so I could afford to get back. And then upon returning, I was told I had to sleep outside because I was late. So I slept outside, and I returned to get my belongings, and I was denied my belongings. And then I was told if I would want to come back, so I don't have to sleep outside, that I had to sleep in a dark room with no windows, no telecommunications, no internet, no telephone. I'm sorry, no television. Um, as a victim, as a victim. Um, and so and I have to go to court, and I have to file these documents in court, regarding me being assaulted. Um, right before I was assaulted, I was filing an order, a no contact order. I was told that if I filed that no contact order, I was told beforehand if I filed any kind of no contact orders, that I would be assaulted and I would be arrested. And so after they assaulted me, they tried to have me arrested, but I caught it on film this time. And had I not caught it on film, the likelihood of me being arrested would be about 50% likelihood. And it's really, really bad, because not only not only there was an attempt to arrest me after they assaulted me, but after I left, they threw away my belongings. When the officer came to the house, they asked if I wanted them arrested, and I said no, due to the fact that other individual in the house is aggressive and has made attempts to hurt me, and he would hurt me if he would hurt me once the arrest was made. So I wanted to get out of the building first, then I went to the police station. I got out of the building first, then went to the police station once I was safe. Um, I I have been assaulted many times, and I've never retaliated, which is one of the most amazing things about this story is that I refused to instigate, I refused to retaliate, and I refused to argue and threaten. I refused to threaten anybody, and so because of their aggressive personalities, it's the misinterpretation of domestic violence, which I'll break it down for you briefly. That the interpretation for domestic violence is that so let me say it this way: people assume domestic violence is when a man assaults a woman. Domestic violence is incorporated from a man assaults a woman, and that's not true. That's not true at all. And it's okay that we didn't understand. It's okay because we didn't go to law school, and we don't deal with the courts. But any violence that occurs under somebody's on somebody's premise, on somebody's, like, under somebody's roof, and any violence that is in relationship to the owner or to a resident, um, that is considered domestic violence. And so that's important because the majority of people have gotten it incorrect, and that group of people, that majority includes the officials, such as the officers, or the officials among the state. They have gotten it somewhat incorrect, and it caused a bias. It caused this misinterpretation where domestic violence is when a man hits a woman, and the truth is domestic violence is when anybody is violent towards another person. And so because this county has misinterpreted it, um, extreme deprivation occurred. Not being able to use the telephone, not being able to cook, not being able to eat, not being able to work out, um, and not being able to sleep, not being able to sleep, not being able to leave, not being able to leave the house is really important. And then, uh, and so under those circumstances, it caused that under those, like, so those categories can be defined as elements, and as those elements put together, the level of hostility increased, from and so it caused the individuals who assaulted me to behave, in their natural state, which is aggressive, abusive, demeaning. Um, I had a perfect body. I had a perfect body. I worked out every day. I lost every muscle in my body, to the point where I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. Um, I didn't give up working out. I couldn't work out. I couldn't work out. Just like I can't really say no to sleeping in a dark room at the shelter, because it's either I sleep in that dark room for the weekend or I sleep outside. I don't drink and I don't do drugs. The individuals who assaulted me are habitual drinkers and drug users, and they've gone to jail for it. Um, I am a singer. I'm a guitar player. On video, what you have seen doesn't will it will never do justice, and it will never do justice in how well I'm able to play or sing, because the moments that I've recorded haven't been my best moments. I haven't looked the greatest. I wasn't able to communicate the greatest. Um, and so the worst part is that so look at it this way: the abuser can go to court, lie in court, can then, steal the victim's belongings, and then force the victim into a car and drive the victim out of the county, and no state official, the police officers or the state's attorney, nobody is willing to, uh, address the victim's concern, because it's important to understand because the abuser has the mindset where this is how it is. This is in their house. It's not. It's happening in somebody's house where there is no jurisdiction by the authority. There's no jurisdiction by the authority. Um, and that's not necessarily the right mindset. Being a victim of domestic violence, sometimes a victim gets gets conditioned to being victimized, and because of that reason alone, it is up to the state to intervene and right the wrong, and especially if the victim is willing to file charges. It is very important that the state follow through with that. So there's two scenarios there where a victim becomes so conditioned they will never file charges, and then the other cases where the victim wants to file charges and is going to file charges, that the state follows through with those charges. Um, the most important thing is, well, the most important thing is that this county has a very high human trafficking rate, a very high crime rate, a very high domestic violence, statistic. I'll use the word statistic after as the last adjective. Now, it's important to understand that when after the incidents has happened, in certain cases, the perception is wrong. Where some people can really believe it. Here's the secret: if you really believe in yourself, and you believe who you are, and you believe you're everything that you are, if you believe you're a better person, if you believe you're like the best at what you do, and you tell somebody this, that emotion can transpire, and the listener will sometimes believe you. We've seen it through Ponzi schemes, emotional speakers, and we've seen it in like cults, and so people believe it. And so if somebody has a disorder, and they are committing crimes and they have a disorder, and the authority is involved, and there's not enough evidence to link that individual, it is difficult to prosecute, because the evidence is really founded on the belief that a person has committed a crime. Unless it is caught on camera, unless the actions are caught on camera, the foundation is believing that that individual has committed that crime. Without witnesses, and even with witnesses, you have to understand that people, what they view and when they view it and how they remember it is the lineage of that is different. And so the concern that I'm having is that with the evidence of the factual evidence where body mass was lost, starvation occurred, and the rest of the horrible extreme incidences of deprivation occurred, that occurred, and with all that factual evidence, it has been accepted and tolerated. It has been tolerated. I have zero tolerance for this happening to anybody. And once again, now why did this happen? Well, if I want to sleep inside at the homeless shelter, I'm going to have to sleep in a dark room. Now, yes, the lights turn on. The lights do turn on, but there are no windows. I don't have a telephone that works. There is no television. I do not have access to the internet, and I must do this. I must sleep in this room over the weekend, which means I cannot leave. I cannot be active with my friends. I cannot be active in society. I cannot be active for my own well-being over the weekend. It's the same exact reason. It's the exact same reason that it's not really it's safer to sleep indoor than it is outside. It is safer. Okay. Um, but but this but these things don't have to happen. These things don't have to occur. I have proactively contacted individuals, and I've given them I've given them the necessary um, the necessary data that would that should have prevented me from this occurring. And because I wasn't taken seriously, um, I have suffered. Is there anything else that I think I can say to affirm that um, that this is well, if this is going to change? Um, well, how does this happen? When you believe that you're correct and you're incorrect, and the authority believes the violent person is correct, when the authority believes the violent person is correct, it green lights more violence. And and so that's how this happened. This is one way. This is one way. And so once again, domestic violence is perceived to be when a man hits a woman, and so it is. But and as a society, we believed that was the perception. However, the reality is, the truth is that domestic violence is any violence that occurs at a household, at a residence, under like at an estate, among members who reside there, or or are uh, are under that roof at that time, or on those premises at that time. Um, I like I said, I it happened so many times, and I remain calm. I remain calm. That it's sad that um, it's sad because my grandmother, who was in a wheelchair, was also a victim, and and you should be able to see how my grandmother was neglected. You should be able to see how easy it is now. It should be easy to understand how my grandmother was neglected after me explaining it. Um, so uh, the I guess the other thing is, like, this is what they call pain and suffering. That's what they call pain and suffering, and there is a remedy for pain and suffering. If there is a remedy for the amount of pain and suffering, so you must go to court. You must go to court. And I guess the last thing I will say is that if I am spending time in a room with no internet, no telephone, no television, no connection to the outside, and I was just victimized, and I have a court date, and I need to get ready for that court date, and I have to sit in a dark room, that's preventing me from utilize. That's preventing me from being proactive in this court date. I contacted the state agencies, the legal aid state agencies, but it's once again, with no contact, no outside communication. There's no way to move forward with them at this moment. Um, the other thing that I think wasn't my last idea. Um, uh, my last idea. Um, so I know you guys are gonna stay with me for a minute while why I why I get my train of thought back. I can press pause, I guess. Is that I had to purchase a transportation card to get back to the shelter. Um, which I spent, it is $55, around $55. I can't utilize that transportation card for this over the weekend. However, after the weekend, I can utilize a transportation card. I can utilize a transportation card. So that's 2 days that I can't use the transportation card. Um, if I had a job, if I was working, I I have to stay in this room over the weekend. So my job would be at risk. Um, the last thing I'm going to say is you don't want this to happen, and we tried to prevent this from happening, but we don't want to hurt somebody who's a victim, and we don't want to misidentify the victim. It it empowers the victim. It empowers the victim, and that's why I'm concerned, because knowing and then empowering the victim doesn't make any logical sense, does not make logical sense. And it happens a lot. And we are empowering people who are who are not intelligent enough to make the right decision. And so that that is that isn't as important to understanding how this can happen, and that the wrong people who are who are supposed, how do I say it, and that the people who are helping you sometimes will not help you because they are the wrong person to they're the wrong person in the wrong position. And I'm the right person. I have to say that is you, like, please know that I am very much the right person, and that's the difference.